Wait. Before you scroll past this, I need you to hear me out. Because what's happening with the Toronto Raptors right now is one of the most fascinating and genuinely terrifying situations in the entire NBA. And I'm not using that word lightly, terrifying. Because on the surface, everything looks great. The wins are coming. The vibes are good. The fans are happy. But underneath all of that, there's a trap being set. And if this front office doesn't recognize it and act fast, we could be talking about years of mediocrity. So if you care about this team, if you bleed red and black, if you want to see a championship return to this city, then you need to watch this entire video. And before we get into it, if you're not subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button right now. We talk Raptors at the highest level on this channel, and trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming this offseason, okay? Let's get into it. So here's the thing about the Toronto Raptors this season. Everyone, and I mean everyone, had them pegged as an under 500 team. The projections were sitting around 39 to 40 wins, which honestly felt generous at the time, given that they only managed 30 wins last season. But something clicked this year, something real, and here we are, not just eclipsing those projections, but doing it comfortably to the point where this team is genuinely in conversation for a top 6 seed in the Eastern Conference. That means potentially avoiding the play-in tournament altogether and walking straight into the playoffs. Think about that for a second. From 30 wins to a legitimate playoff contender in one single season. That is an impressive turnaround by any measure, and it would represent the second year of what the organization is calling their rebuild. But here's where things get complicated, and here's where I need you to really pay attention. Scotty Barnes has been everything we hoped he could be, and then some. This guy is a do-it-all engine. He defends, he creates, he makes the right play. He's developing into a franchise cornerstone in real time, and it's been incredible to watch. Brandon Ingram came over and immediately became the team's leading scorer, earned an all-star nod this season, and has given this offense a genuine alpha presence that it desperately needed. RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickley, despite carrying some big contracts, have delivered real offensive support and have given this team legitimate depth. And then you've got the young pieces, Jacoby Walter on the ascent in his second year, and Colin Murray-Boyles, who looks like an absolute gem, a future starter, a player who could be a real piece of something special. This success doesn't feel manufactured. It doesn't feel like smoke and mirrors. It feels earned. It feels real. But here's the problem. And this is the thing that's been keeping me up at night as a Raptors fan. Despite being in a better position than several other Eastern Conference teams, the Raptors currently have the second longest odds to win the East this season. Only Miami, who look like they're heading toward the 10 seed and a quick exit, has worse odds. So what does that tell us? It tells us that the league, the analytics, the betting markets, none of them see Toronto as a legitimate threat to actually win anything meaningful. And that's the distinction we have to make here. There's a massive difference between being a playoff team and being a contender. And right now, the Raptors are one but not the other. This is what people in NBA circles call being stuck in the middle. And it is genuinely one of the worst positions a franchise can be in. When you're bad enough, you get high lottery picks. You get the chance to land a generational talent. You get to build from the bottom up with purpose and direction. And when you're great, you're competing for championships, you're attracting free agents, and you're operating from a position of strength. But that middle ground, that no man's land between rebuilding and contending, that is where franchises go to waste years of good players' careers. That is where fan bases slowly lose interest. That is where potential goes to die. And I want to be very clear, I don't think the Raptors are trapped there yet, but they could be, and it could happen faster than any of us want to admit. Now, I've talked before about MLSE CEO Keith Pelly's press conference following the Maple Leaf situation. And one thing he made crystal clear was that ownership has absolutely zero appetite for tanking. Zero. They don't want to go backwards in the standings. They are not interested in deliberately losing games to improve draft positioning. And look, I understand that sentiment after watching this team tank for 2 years, watching loyal fans sit through loss after loss after loss. I get why ownership wants to move forward. I genuinely do. But that stance, when combined with where this team currently sits in the standings, creates a really complicated situation, because if you're not willing to go backwards and you're not yet capable of moving forward into contention, then the only direction left is sideways, and sideways is stagnation. What worries me most is the idea that the front office looks at this season, feels good about the progress, and decides to just run it back. Just let the young guys develop. Trust the process. Bet on internal growth. And look, I want to believe in internal growth too. I love this young core. I really do. But we've been down this road before as Raptors fans. We watched this exact same movie during the Pascal Siakam era, where we had a talented young core and kept betting that the surrounding pieces would just figure it out, that internal development would carry us over the top, and it didn't. The pieces never truly fit together the way they needed to. The talent was there, but the roster construction had holes, floor spacing issues, size concerns, and those holes were never truly addressed. That era fizzled out, and I'm terrified we're setting ourselves up to watch the same thing happen again. Here's the other thing that's making this situation even more urgent. The Eastern Conference is getting better, like significantly better. This season was supposed to be a gap year in the East. Everyone was talking about how wide open things were, how there was a real opportunity for new teams to rise up. And while that's been partially true, the Boston Celtics did not get the memo. Despite Jason Tatum dealing with injury concerns and despite a summer full of cost-cutting moves, Boston came back this season and looked absolutely elite again. They are the best team in the East, full stop. And that was supposed to be the one team that was maybe vulnerable this year, but it goes beyond Boston. Look at the Indiana Pacers. Yeah, this year has been rough, but they're adding Ivica Zubac, and Tyrese Halliburton is returning from injury next season. That team is going to be dangerous again. The Washington Wizards are bad right now, but they're going to bring in Anthony Davis and Trae Young next season. Even if that takes time to gel, the trajectory is clearly upward. The Charlotte Hornets are quietly one of the most exciting young teams in the East right now. They started slow, but they've been one of the best teams in the conference since finding their footing, and they're only going to get better. The Atlanta Hawks are catching fire in the latter part of this season, and they're young and ascending. And the teams at the top, the Knicks, the Celtics, the Cavaliers, they're not going anywhere. The Pistons are building something real. The East is stacking up. And the window the Raptors have to make meaningful moves is getting smaller, not larger. So where does that leave us? With a team that is genuinely too good to tank, but not yet good enough to contend, in a conference that is actively getting harder, with an ownership group that refuses to go backwards. That is the tightrope this front office has to walk this offseason. And it has to be one of the most aggressive and decisive offseasons in recent Raptors history. The good news, and there actually is real good news here, is that the Raptors have the assets to be aggressive. They control all of their first-round draft picks. All of them. That is real currency in today's NBA. That means they can package picks together to go after a difference-making player. They have tradable contracts that make sense from a financial standpoint. RJ Barrett's salary climbs to $29 million next season, but here's the thing. It's an expiring contract, and in this cap environment, expiring contracts are gold. Teams looking to create flexibility heading into the 2027 offseason would absolutely look at Barrett's expiring deal and see value there. Grady Dick's contract becomes expiring next season as well, which gives the Raptors even more trade flexibility. This front office has tools, real tools. The question is whether they have the courage and the vision to actually use them, because this is the crossroads moment. This is the offseason that defines whether 2024-25 was the beginning of something genuinely great in Toronto or whether it was the peak. Whether we look back on this season fondly as the launching pad or whether we look back on it with sadness as the moment the Raptors had a chance to push and chose to stand still instead. If they stand still, if they run this back with the same roster and hope the young guys make the leap, they risk sliding permanently into that play-in tier. Decent, but not dangerous. Competitive, but not a threat. And that is not what this fan base deserves. If they push, if they're aggressive, if they make a real move to acquire a difference maker, yes, there is risk. Of course, there's risk. Every big swing in the NBA comes with risk, but there's also massive upside. There's also the possibility that this team becomes something that the rest of the conference genuinely fears. And look, at the end of the day, we have to celebrate what this season has been. 30 wins last year, comfortably over 40 this year, a likely playoff appearance, Scotty Barnes playing the best basketball of his life, Brandon Ingram proving he belongs among the elite, young players emerging and showing real promise. That is a good season. That is real progress. We should enjoy it. We should feel good about it. But we can't get comfortable, and more importantly, this front office cannot get comfortable. Good is not good enough, not in this league, not with this roster's potential, not with the city's expectations. So I'm throwing it to you because I genuinely want to know what the Raptors community thinks. Should the front office be aggressive this offseason? Should they swing for a major trade and really try to push this thing forward? Or do they show patience, trust the internal development, and see how another season plays out? Drop your thoughts in the comments right now. This conversation is important. Let's have it together.